All right, update. I got the frame rate back up to 60 again. And I made the terrain much bigger, this time even bigger than before. I mean, it even extends behind the spawn point here. And yeah, so the way I did it, oh yeah, I made a video yesterday. I'm already forgetting where I am in the timeline here. So the issue that was causing that the gaps in between each cell. I kind of had a hunch it was some incorrect math. I was wrong about what the issue in the math was, but I was correct that my math was wrong. And the reason for that is because when I generate each chunk has to iterate through an entire array, or really a list of cells. And for each cell, it has to define all 8 corners of each cell. And I was trying to do it in kind of a fancy way, kind of getting a little bit too fancy with my math there. And it was kind of defining the corners slightly off. I'm actually not sure if it was due to floating point precision errors. I actually think it was just because I was using division in there, and the division was not, the calculation was just not correct. Dividing, I was converting integers into floating point numbers and then dividing that, and I think something was wrong. So I did it the simple way. I just loop through and increment the point in space within the chunk, and then for each point, I just use that point as a starting off point to define each corner. And I have one constant in there to define the space or the size of each cell, and then I'm just reusing that constant constantly to make sure everything is consistent. So every cell is the exact same size now. I believe before, it was wrong. The size was wrong sometimes. So I'm very, very pleased with the result here. The fact that the frame rate is 60 again is incredible, especially with the terrain being even larger than it was before. So my hunch about what was causing the bad performance was correct. It was definitely the lack of using chunks. And I do have one curiosity here, one question, which is if putting this, collecting the separate meshes and putting them into one mesh was the solution to optimizing this, then wouldn't it be better if the entire terrain was one giant mesh? That's kind of what I'm wondering now. And I think the answer might be yes. I think that actually might be the most optimized way to do it, at least for rendering. I think the reason that that's not the way it's typically done is because if you want to modify the terrain, in game, like you want to dig a hole or something, it would be extremely slow to regenerate the entire terrain just to modify one small area. So in fact, I believe that is what I saw a YouTube video that explained it that way. So I believe that's the reason. So I think this chunking method makes the most sense. I was thinking, I didn't sleep very well last night, so I was laying awake thinking about this, and another curiosity that I have is whether or not it's even feasible to kind of do a sort of render distance calculation thing where all of the chunks that are near the camera have the highest resolution, so they would probably look like this, but then the further away from the camera the chunk is, the lower the resolution of the grid of cells would be. And obviously the problem with this is that they probably wouldn't connect perfectly. So if you have a lower resolution chunk, it's going to have some gaps along the border between the higher resolution chunks. I was thinking about this lying awake in bed, and I just don't know how I would resolve that. It seems like a really tricky issue to solve. But that would be so cool if it were possible to make that work, because then, I mean, the render distance, imagine how far the render distance could be if that were possible. I think that would be amazing. But anyways, all of this, and I still haven't done the normals, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and that will be the next update here.